Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. So, sometimes people have obviously a slip of a tongue or Freudian slip of a tongue, which is they say something that they say, I don't want to say that, I shouldn't say that, but I'm thinking it. And that is, in this case, we have two mistakes. I don't know if they're mistakes, I think they will be realities. Now, not that I wish for, but hey, let's discuss this. I'm talking about Crimea and Kiev. The United States of America, according to CNN and Bloomberg, are ready to recognize Crimea as Russia. Well, some people might get very, very upset. Some people will think, oh my God, it's fantastic. And some people will say, it's only normal. All right, I don't know what main category, the keyword is main category you are part of, but doesn't matter. That's the first topic. The other one, Kiev. Is Kiev Russian? Well, we have Fox News, again, media outlet, covering the Easter celebrations, and they name over there Kiev being part of Russia. What's going on here? Are they getting ready to let us know something? If United States of America recognizes, let's say, Crimea as being Russia, they didn't do any concession to the Russians. So, and it's not a big deal. Why? They consider Crimea Russia anyway. And I will explain historically. The problem is if they recognize Crimea as being Russia, then it opens a big Polish can of worms. And Romanian, and Hungarian, and who knows what. All right, let's go. The first article, first topic, this is from April 19th, 2025. Trump administration ready to recognize Russian control of Crimea as part of framework to end Ukraine war, sources say. The Trump administration is ready to recognize Russian control of Crimea as part of the US proposal to drive an end to the war with Ukraine, an official familiar with the framework told CNN on Friday. Now, official familiar with the framework. I have a person, an official, told me, familiar with the framework that the United States of America is going to give half of its country, not half, let's say one third of its country to Mexico. It's an official familiar with the matter or with the framework. Do you believe me? You shouldn't. Therefore, you shouldn't believe the other guys too. The problem is the Russians, in their hearts and knowledge, Crimea is theirs anyway. They don't need anybody's, how should I put it, recognition or approval. Why? Because the bear doesn't ask, the bear takes, like the lion. All right, let's go to the next article. This comes from New Voice of Ukraine. CNN confirms U.S. position on Crimea. Meeting with Ukraine and EU plan. The Trump administration is prepared to recognize Russian control over Crimea as part of a potential agreement to end the war in Ukraine. This is, for Russians, this is peanuts, okay? CNN reported on April 19, citing a source familiar with the framework of the possible deal. This is peanuts for the Russians. Don't think that the Russians right now are opening their balalaikas and vodkas and they have a little party with kazachok. No, it's not going to be that. Why? They say, goes without saying, that's not what we are in here for. We have much more. Why? Because if you remember, Mr. Medvedev, the former president of the Russian Federation, said at one point, and not only that he said it, I really think he believes it, and not only that, I guarantee you that many millions of Russians who really think Kiev is Russian. So what are you going to do about that? Now you can say, well, just thinking like that, it doesn't make it. The problem is the bear could take it. Will it take it? I don't think so. I don't think the Russians will take it. Imagine you going into an enemy territory. I mean, even after this, I mean, the Ukrainians and the Russians were fueled with all kind of hatred towards one another and for decades, if not more than that. I know that firsthand. I don't have to be told that, but nevertheless. So after this war, where again the Russians were portrayed as being the pigs and big nose and all that, whatever they call the Russians, then imagine that the Russians will take over, I don't know, about 30 million Ukrainians. That means you get 30 million potential backstabbers in your country who will have children who in the new society, in the new Russia, will ascend to positions of power at one point, like let's say Khrushchev. Wasn't Khrushchev half Ukrainian? And if it was not, there were many if you want Stalin. Stalin was a Georgian. If you want Shevardnadze was the foreign minister. He was a Georgian too, of Soviet Union. So a lot of people were not Russians and they climbed. And then when they got over there, they took care of their people. Like they always do. And they will always do that. Why? My people is my extended family. Your people is your extended family. We're not related. Or maybe we can make a social construct here and there and make us related, but still we're all human beings, human race. That's how they bring us in, except one who is actually the guy in charge and say no, you have diversity, we don't have diversity. You know what I'm talking about? All right, let's go to the second topic of this video, and that is but let me show you the Russians first. The Russians, US could recognize Crimea as Russian territory. Could. The peninsula voted to secede from Ukraine following the Western-backed 2014 coup in Kiev. So, what happened? Crimea was given from Russia within the Soviet Union to the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic at that point. So, Soviet Union was formed of these republics, which were called the Soviet Socialist Republic of Moldova, Soviet Republic of Russia, of Ukraine. And these guys just maneuvered population to get them mixed so they don't revolt thinking, oh, we're here Ukrainians, we're going to do something. So they took Ukrainians, they sent them to Kazakhstan, they got, Moldovans, they sent them to Vladivostok, they got Russians, sent them into Ukraine, they mixed them. And it was Stalin. Why? Divide and impera. Divide and conquer the same way. You don't want homogeneous. That's why in the United States of America, they don't like enclaves. We're all diverse. Why? So you don't realize, wait a minute, what the fuck are these guys doing over here? Okay, and then you have problems, including the fact we have boom, boom. So then it was in 1954, if I remember correctly, Mr. Nikita Khrushchev, then the new leader of the Soviet Union, after Stalin was he died. He had a mini stroke, okay? So he died, then Nikita Khrushchev maneuvered, and with the military, with Mr. Zhukov, the general, the fantastic general, right? He took over power. He maneuvered all the baboons over there. He took care of whomever was necessary to them. It was Beria and other imbeciles. Anyway, he took care of them. And after he took care of them, he said, okay, I'm going to give from the Russian, the Soviet Socialist Republic of Russia, if you want to call it that way, took Crimea and simply gave it to Ukraine. That's it. In 54, I think it was. So that's how Crimea became Ukrainian. So do you think that people are still alive right now that remember that? Or at least they were alive when that happened. So it's not something that happened 3 centuries ago. You say, oh, screw it, No. So then these guys are, it's ours. Well, now it came back. So that's why the Russians are not, what I talk about. It's not discussable. We don't discuss. We don't talk about whose Crimea is. Obviously is ours. Now they're going to go to the Kyiv. To the Kiev. Oh, Kiev was formed by Rus. We are the ones. No, it was the Kiev. Look at the Ukrainians in history. I have nothing against the Ukrainians. Believe me, I have nothing. I've been around Ukrainians all my life. Okay, and I know the feeling. I know if you would just say one word about Kiev or this, they will cut throat. Well, I'm still alive, so I didn't say anything. I'm just kidding. So that's why the Americans will be inclined to say that, because people will still remember. All right, and the problem is if the United States of America recognizes Crimea being over there, then they will have to recognize Moldova being Moldova, which is part of Bessarabia, because it's not the entire Moldova. Bessarabia, parts of it, and Bukovina are in Ukraine right now, given by Stalin, partitioned and given by Stalin. So then they have to say, in this case, we have to give Bukovina to the Romanians, and we have to put Bessarabia, parts of Bessarabia that are in Ukraine right now, to Bessarabia, and from Bessarabia back to Romania. Bessarabia was taken away from Romania at one point. Now you can say, well, Bessarabia, since when is just like an independent country? Okay, and where are the other ones? The territories that are right now in Ukraine that were Bessarabia. Ukraine? When? Since when? So again, and then the Poles with balls will knock at the door and say, Lviv and Lutsk are ours, Polski, right over there. And what do you think the Americans were going to say? Okay, Poland, because you sucked so much, we're going to give that to you. And they will give it to you. And then the Hungarians, Zakarpattia, and the Romanians going to say, fuck off, that's ours. Then Pokutia, what are all this? It's a big, Ukraine, I know people don't like it, was formed from other countries, territories. That's a fact. It's not me BSing you. That's why you have so many, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. I understand at one point borders in Romania were like this because you have people who want to grab that, and so on. But they open a can of worms. And the problem is going to be like this. Not the problem, the issue. The strong will take. The weak will ask. All right. So let's go to the second topic, which is Kiev is Russia, according to Fox News. This is an article from Ukrainska Pravda. Fox News calls Kiev and I'm quoting, Russian city during Easter service broadcast. And what they see over here, they put over here, I'm going to try to zoom it, right there, live. Easter service, Kiev, Russia. Oh, Eve, don't do that. How many times the Romanians were insulted by others, for instance, when the people came into Romania and said, hey, welcome, hey, how are you, Budapest? I'm glad to be in Budapest. Now, if you say that in Romania, you get smacked in the face. Like you would go to Hungary, let's say you go to Budapest and say, hello, my fellows from Bucharest. You get smacked in the face. You don't say these things. Why? Well, I don't know, some past historical events that prevent us to be, too friendly at the beginning, but it's from person to person. I have Hungarian friends, I have no problem with them, unless we talk history. That's why history should be left out of the conversations sometimes. In certain areas, like you talk, with the Turks and the Serbs, or Romanians and the Turks, we're even better, but the Hungarians, still it's fresh memory. And crimes, I would say all sides. Why? Because we're all human. We say, oh, the Hungarians did this to us. Don't you think that we didn't do that to them? I mean, if you think, the massacre from Ypres, remember those ones in Romania from the Hungarians reaching in forts and killed? Anyway, let's go to these guys. So what do we have here? Live Easter service in Kiev. And these guys obviously get offended by that. So what do we have? During the American news channel, Fox News has called Kiev a Russian city during its broadcast of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine's Easter service. The channel was broadcasting Easter celebrations from around the world, including a service held in Russia attended by the head of the Russian Orthodox Church and Kremlin leader, not dictator, oh my God, Vladimir Putin. As part of same coverage, Fox News showed Easter celebration from around the world, including in Kiev. Initially, the broadcast correctly labeled the Orthodox Church of Ukraine's service at Saint Michel or Michael Golden Dome Cathedral as taking place in Kiev, Ukraine. However, the caption later changed to Kiev, Russia, and remained on the screen for an extended period. All right, well, it says, this incident comes shortly after Bloomberg, citing sources, reported that U.S. is allegedly willing to recognize Russian control over Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula as part of a broader peace deal between Moscow and Kiev. Now, this right here with the background, they imply that that's an order from White House to change that in the Fox News, or it was an order. I mean, I know these things work just like that. There's some interest to give order, and then you have all the media using the same word, the same word. Not that the word necessarily applies for that, all right, but a same adjective, let's say. Let's go to the last article coming from Sputnik. U.S. Fox News channel calls Kiev part of Russia while broadcasting Eastern service. I don't know why they showed this guy right here. He's Ukrainian as I am Zimbabwean. And the same thing right here. And this show was the same tra-la-la. Now, I would not be See, these things are small, cheap pieces of satisfaction. Let's put it so. Oh my God, they called Kiev Russian. Oh my God, yes. No, my friends, you change the condition. You don't change the appearance. You could have written over there Kiev, I don't know, Japan. Oh my God, the Japanese will all celebrating. It means nothing. Nothing. I mean, it's just a mistake. Or someone calls it that way. Hungary many times made maps, including Transylvania in Hungary. Was the Romania angry? Yeah. Were we upset? Yeah. What did they do? They talked to the Hungarians, blah, 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 and the Hungarians were like, was that real? No, because Transylvania was still Romania, so they can do these kind of things. Why? Was that a mistake? I don't think it was a mistake. I mean, it was too obvious not to know in today's current events that Kiev is attacked by the Russians, and it's Kiev is. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was purposely done. But do I have any evidence? No, but I'm not a baboon either. I've been around people, and when interests go like that, yeah, you're going to try to poke the bear or poke the whatever. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Crimea will be recognized, probably, not the rest, but the Russians will not give a flying fuck about that. Why? They shouldn't. Why should they? Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.